Good evening. Please stand and join us to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded for playback by WRPS at youtube.com/WRPS-Rockland. Please go to www.WRPSRockland.com for further information. First on the agenda, community announcements. Doug?
Actually, I don't have any, just that voting's going on today until 8 p.m., and I think so far so good from what I've seen. Other than that, no other announcements.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, minutes, review and approval of minutes of August 29, 2022. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. So the board has the minutes in their packet. This was a complicated meeting, so I did ask the board to spend some extra time reviewing them. If you go to page 4, the last large paragraph, Tiffany had one correction. That first sentence should be corrected to say, Ms. Needham said always what has worked best in Rockland is when departments communicate together. So we can correct that unless, in addition to any other corrections you may have.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Okay, and both Donna and Kara were not here, so they have to abstain, so it's unanimous. Okay. Next on the agenda, under new business, America Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding request. Dr. Alan Cron, Superintendent Jane Hackett, Assistant Superintendent for Administration, Finance, and Personnel. I'm going to go to Doug first real quick with a little background.
Thanks, Mike. So this is an iterative process. As the board knows, we've been talking about this for a while since we first started getting ARPA awards or notifications of awards. So I did include in your packet what I'm calling the master spreadsheet that's tracking all of the ideas we've had, that we've received, all of the actual spending that's already occurred to date, cash, as well as the items that the board has authorized and set aside. And again, as a reminder, there's two sources of funding. It's all coming from the feds, the American Rescue Plan Act, but there's a portion, $1.88 million, has already come directly to the town. They call that non-entitlement unit, NEU for short, and then over $3.3 million that's flowing through the county. We have more flexibility in the uses of the funds through the direct NEU funding. There's more restrictions on the funding through the county. And so again, just a very quick recap. We did a lot of revenue replacement up front. We did some technology purchases for the schools and the water district, the water department. Then we also set aside funding at a more recent meeting for fire station feasibility study and a recreation department feasibility study, and then a number of community and economic development, smaller dollars, but a number of items for downtown revitalization, which is all consistent with the intent of ARPA coming out of the COVID pandemic. Under water and sewer, which are really our largest, and everything I just mentioned was all through the non-entitlement unit funds. The largest items individually thus far have been water and sewer, which are very directly eligible items under ARPA, and those we're going to go through the county because it makes the most sense given the county's application process. So as I indicated the last time I shared this sheet with you, if you go down to the very bottom, what we have available after everything that we've already done and everything you've already committed, there's $505,000 available in NEU funds and about $1.87 million available through the county. We did have a placeholder in here for the school department for improvements to the Eston School at the request of the school department. And Dr. Cron and Jane are here to talk about that tonight. And as I gave you a heads up earlier, I think they may be talking about reprioritizing some of those funds. So with that, I'll turn it over to them.
Okay. Dr. Cron, Jane Hackett, come on up.
Feel free to move that table if it's not in the right spot.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. So we basically have two good-sized projects on the table that we want the town to commit to consider partnering with us on. One is the renovation of the Eston School, and the renovation of the Eston School is so that we can prepare for full-day preschool. We would be one of the few towns, if not the only town on the South Shore offering its taxpayers free full-day preschool. So that's what we're aiming for with the Eston School renovations. But what we're asking the board to consider today is to flip-flop our priorities. We still need to do the Eston School for the opening of 2023, but we've been working on upgrading our safety mechanisms throughout the district over the past 6 months or so. And one of the things that's really come to light is that our new building, the Phelps School, will have what is called a double entry system. So to come into the building, you're let into a room and you do not have access to the rest of the school until your ID is checked and so on and so forth before you have access to the building. So the Phelps School would be the only school with a double entry access system. What we are proposing is an upgrade to our safety protocols throughout the district that would allow us to have a double entry system in every building in the district. So what we're looking at is doing work at the Eston, work at the middle school, and work at the high school, as well as central office and the preschool. And what that would give us is the ability to screen everyone before they actually have access to the building. So what we're looking at is for about $15,000 to design our front door management systems, $350,000 for construction to the front of the Eston School, the middle school, and the high school, and parts of preschool and central office entrance. We're looking at security software that we are using currently. We will be using in the Phelps School. We want to upgrade that security so that it's the same system being used in all of the schools. And we would be looking at replacing as many as 150 cameras at the high school, middle school, and Eston. Believe it or not, the new high school and middle school is already hitting its year 8 or 9 mark. So we're replacing cameras on a regular basis, trying to keep up with that. And just as a point of interest, the cameras are only important to us if something happens. So if something happens and we go to use that camera and then the camera's down, then we do not have the ability to provide the insurance company or anyone else with information. So we're constantly trying to keep our cameras up to date, but it is quite a task. So we are here to ask that the town commit $548,000 worth of ARPA money toward upgrading security in the schools, and to hear any questions that you might have. This plan and design is done in partnership with the Rockland Police Department, Rockland Fire Department. As you know, as I think you know, we take security extremely seriously in the school department, and we have had a committee that meets on a regular basis with the fire department, the police department. We've started to involve our senior citizens in this. We've started to involve our youth commission so that we're all ready for any kind of awful things that could happen. So we're starting to meet on a regular basis, and this would bring us to a very good place on the safety front. As far as schematic design and plans, we have all of those, and they are open for you to review. But because it is safety related, I would ask that you come to my office so that I can share that information with you. We're not sharing that information publicly, but it is available to you, and I'd be happy to discuss any of it with you at any time. I don't know if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Cronin?
I have 2 questions. Are there any federal funds for this type of stuff?
That's actually what we're asking for.
I know.
ARPA, yeah.
No, I mean, any additional coming?
Grants and things like that.
Yeah.
We are looking for grants. We're constantly on the prowl for grants, and there are some state level grants for security and safety, which we will be pursuing vigorously.
Yeah, and how do you unpack like the maintenance for these systems? I mean, what does it look like for years ahead? Is it
So What we're talking about doing are some structural changes so that
Yeah.
for example, when you walk into the middle school now,
Right.
you walk into a lobby, but that second set of doors is not locked.
Yep.
So once you're in, you're in. What we're looking at is upgrading the physical structure so that that second door is locked, and
Right,
so that the
yeah.
first door requires a person to show ID.
Yep.
So there are some basic design things that need to happen. Then on the other end, there's software.
Right.
And that's constantly, they're trying to find new ways to charge us more money for the software.
Yeah, so, I mean,
But-
on a yearly basis, do you have any idea how much that would?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We have purchased, well, right now, we're under a 90-day trial with a new system that's monitoring, that we will use for both check-in and for those of you who have elementary school children and pick your kiddos up. We have implemented a new car line system. And they speak with X2, which is our software system on who's allowed, who's not allowed to pick up, and it requires folks to have IDs. So that renewal license will go up every year, but right now, that's our big software purchase that we're going forward on. As far as the maintenance things, you'll see with the cameras,
Yeah.
you come with wear and replace
Yeah. The camera.
going on.
The cameras definitely require regular maintenance. The software requires maintenance, but the changes that we're talking about making to the buildings are pretty structural, and they'll be a one-time
Yep.
cost.
Right.
We're attempting to absorb the recurring costs
Yep.
within
In your
within
budget,
the
yeah.
operating budget and only come forward requesting the one-time expenditures.
Capital.
Under capital.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Dr. Cron, Assistant Superintendent Hackett, thank you very much for this update, and I appreciate it. I'm grateful that you're prioritizing safety, which is important for all of us, and I also want to congratulate you on starting a new school year. I have one question for you, and that's with the formerly allocated Eston funds going towards the safety initiative and the goal still being in place to open 2023 Eston, is the building able to basically as is achieve that goal, or are you going to be looking for those funds that were needed for Eston's renovation elsewhere?
Yes, we're going to be looking for those funds at town meeting
Okay,
from free cash, absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's our hope.
When do you expect the systems to be implemented?
We have some plans in place that would allow us to get things going by December at the latest. We're hoping they could be
Yes.
implemented by the end of the school year. So we'd like to get the structural changes made before the end of the school year.
It's really a supply chain issue.
Okay.
We have the design right now, we can go, we have quote for the design, then the procurement process brings us to 4 to 6 weeks to actually do the design, then we go out to bid, then we award the bid, and then they can begin construction. The construction could begin anywhere from December through March, depending on supply chain. For glass is a very difficult commodity right now.
And part of the reason that we've shifted from the Eston school to the security issues is that a lot of the Eston school, what we're discovering is, we went out to bid, say for example, for air conditioning and refrigeration. We found that the money that it was going to cost to do what we had hoped to do was just out of our league. So a lot of the work that's required at the Eston, we're going to try to do ourselves, and we're going to, we will most likely have to sub out the plumbing, the electrical, and some other aspects of that work, but some of that work we'll be able to do in-house, which will save a lot of money. So we're very hopeful. Whereas with the security, it's more difficult for us to do that.
Don, right? Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for me, obviously, we voted a few months ago to fund the second resource officer. So, from where we sit, we can't talk about wanting to protect the students and then not follow through on the next part of that plan on your part. As it's always been, I trust you guys have done your due diligence, and this is what's necessary to further protect the students of Rockland. So, nobody has anything else.
I think it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
Well, I had a question. it has to do with the Eston School.
Sure.
Would you be willing to talk about, because the McKinley building is in such disarray, combining the students that go there for preschool with,
So here's
the
the
new
deal
school.
with that.
Yeah.
That's an excellent question and
Yeah.
one that we're asked on a pretty regular basis.
okay.
The students that attend daycare are daycare students. So babies, right, up to age starting kindergarten. Our priority educationally would be our pre-K, our preschool kids through 12th grade. So when we think about who we have to educate, that's our priority. But the fact is, our daycare, those are primarily teachers' children. So we're supporting our workforce with this daycare program. So we want to see it continue. But preschool is still our priority from an educational standpoint. I want every 4-year-old in this town to have access to a certified teacher and to be coming to preschool in the Rockland Public Schools if possible, because I think they're going to get the most rigorous education possible, starting when they're age 4. So that's really our priority, and then our second priority would be daycare. So daycare is important to us, but our priority remains daycare, remains preschool, our early intervention students who are age 3 and up. So to try to explain sort of what our priorities are, that's really where our priorities are.
Okay, and my last question is, I'm getting a lot of questions from residents.
Yep.
With the new school, where are you going to put all the snow? Is there a plan for that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's one I have not been asked.
Well, a lot
But-
of people are asking
But
it
we
in
will,
town.
we will get an answer for you.
Okay.
Because I had not been asked that question before.
Okay.
Yeah,
Surprise.
thank you.
No.
Yeah, surprise. Thank you.
Okay, that's
So, if nobody has anything else,
Mike, before you vote, could I just make another comment, if that's all right? I just want to go back to the chart for a minute, just to highlight some of the other initiatives and kind of what the impacts are on that. And before I get to those, I just wanted to highlight, if you remember under the school department section, there were 2 items that the board previously authorized, $20,000 for reimbursement for school furniture storage and tents, and $130,000 for additional substitute and CNA salaries. So what you'll notice, though, in the column on the right, instead of those 2 separate numbers, there's just one number for $150,000 under the substitute CNA line, and that's, with me talking to the school department, that's really where they most need those funds. So it doesn't exceed the total amount you allocated before, but it's all in that substitute CNA line. The other point I wanted to make is, again, if you do approve the $500,000, that will essentially wipe out our non-entitlement unit funds. And for the most part, most of these items, the police station parking lot, police station HVAC, and the roof replacement, town hall generator, et cetera, those can wait to a future town meeting, so that's not gonna kill us. The only thing that there's a little bit of risk involved, but I'm willing to accept the risk, but that's just me, I just wanna make you aware of it. The $465,000 that we had identified for the highway department, for the preliminary design, for the VFW Drive, Weymouth Street intersection, that's an important project because that's design work that needs to be done to help the highway superintendent parlay a $12 million state grant to improve VFW Drive from Union Street all the way up to the Hingham line. So ultimately, we put this on here just to be conservative. Ultimately, we think some private developers should really be footing this bill because ultimately, associated with Union Point, this is really should be their responsibility because there were conditions in the old MEPA permits that required them to make these improvements. So again, we only had this set aside just in case we couldn't get that commitment because we can't force them to. But again, if I have to balance, this is just my own opinion and I want you to have that for when you make your decision, to balance that kind of conservative financial outlook with, immediate school safety needs, I would certainly err on the side of making the improvements at the schools. But I just wanted you to be aware that, there is some risk associated that if we don't get that private development, that could potentially jeopardize that grant. But I think given where we're at, we should be able to get that done through developers, and the work that Dr. Khan and Jane talked about is important. So I just want you to be aware.
that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the ARPA funding request from the schools?
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay.
Did you vote?
I did,
All right, I
sorry.
wasn't sure if it was-
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Sure.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay. Next on the agenda, proposed Phelps Elementary School rooftop solar project. Town administrator. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I wanted to briefly address a project that we're pursuing, which is a rooftop-mounted solar project at the new Phelps Elementary School. And the reason why I'm talking about it and not the schools is because long before I got here, all the utility bills were consolidated under the town. So we pay all the electricity bills, including all of the schools. But since what we're looking at is a project on a rooftop of a school building, and while I pay the utility bills, I and you do not control the school buildings, the school committee does. As I've started to pursue this project, I've made very sure to be careful to work with Dr. Cron, Jane, the facilities director, the owner's project manager for that school building project. And then at one of the more recent school committee meetings, I gave essentially the same presentation to the school committee seeking their approval, which they unanimously did endorse. So I just want to very quickly run through what we're looking at doing, making sure you don't have any concerns. And then at the end, I would appreciate a vote just to authorize me to continue and execute any documents. So again, it's rooftop solar at the new Phelps School. I'm just going to sort of skip through here. We've already talked about how the schools control the building. I've been working with the school department. In particular, as you know, we don't have a facilities director. We certainly don't have a procurement office here. So if this was something that I was looking at doing completely on my own, I frankly wouldn't really have the capacity or the knowledge to do it. But there are nonprofit options out there that serve as the kind of gatekeeper portal conduit to be able to do these types of projects. And that's what I'm recommending working with a group called Power Options. And I was familiar with this entity from the last town that I worked in. They do other types of municipal and nonprofit energy procurement, aggregation, that type of thing. So the beauty of it is they do all the procurement, they handle all the contract negotiations, everything is, and they represent towns, they represent us, they don't represent the developers. And there's a specific Mass General law that authorizes cities and towns to go through entities like Power Options. And I have all that. It's Mass General Law, Chapter 164, Section 137. So there's specific law that authorizes it. But given that we are talking about a pretty significant project, I did want to do a little bit of extra due diligence on this. So I did contact the Attorney General's office and the State Inspector General's office, and they also confirmed that this process is completely legal. And I had Town Council do an additional review as well. They're all on board. The group, I put there a PowerPoint, which I won't go through, but I did put it in your packet. You can see their long list of references. I've personally called a number of them, the towns of Sharon and Brookline and Fitchburg, as well as the Burlington School Department. And so all the references are very good. They do lots of projects all over, and they're very highly recommended. The basic structure of the deal would be as follows. The town would be leasing the school rooftop to the solar developer for 20 years. So we're leasing the roof to them. They would construct the solar project and install it and be responsible for 100% of the maintenance. So there's literally zero upfront cost to the town. We then enter into a 20-year power purchase agreement to buy that electricity directly from them, directly from those panels. So that type of situation is called behind the meter, meaning we directly pull that electricity, and anything we use from those panels is that much less that we have to get from National Grid. And there's a significant savings because when you buy electricity from National Grid, in addition to the electricity itself, there's all the distribution costs, which can be just as much, if not more. There's no delivery costs when it's coming, right from your roof. At the end of the 20-year term of the lease, the town can either purchase the panels or they'll remove them. It's up to us. I do not believe any town meeting votes are going to be required. I've confirmed with the owner's project manager of the new school that the school building committee, way back when, had the foresight to make sure that it was designed in a manner that could accommodate the weight of panels. Because, and I should have said this at the outset, This is not part of the school building project. The school building project is, voted by voters, and it's defined by the MSBA. They don't reimburse for this type of thing. So the school building project has to be completed first, done, they hand us the keys, and then we do this. So it's completely separate from that, but the structure can hold it, and it's a flat roof, it's not a pitched roof, so there's no roof penetrations. It's literally a gravity system where it's just sitting there. As you can see from the PowerPoint, the estimated savings will range somewhere between $25,000 to $45,000 per year for 20 years. So it's, $750,000 in savings we should realize over the 20 years. I know I'm going kind of quick, but those are really the highlights. Again, Dr. Cron and Jane and Mark Sham are on board. The school committee unanimously voted it. And unless you have any questions, I would ask for your support too.
Any questions from the board?
Seems pretty clear. And if there's no investment from us, then it seems like a no-brainer to save $750,000.
Agreed.
So I'm not sure that necessarily requires a vote or a motion, but I'll entertain a motion in order to just, allow Doug to kind of know where the board is going. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve Doug going on with the paperwork for this, is that?
Continuing the process, I suppose. Sure.
Yes.
So I have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second from Donna. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, appointments. So start off first, Cultural Council, Amy Lynch. Amy couldn't attend tonight. She sent a letter saying that she wasn't
Right, that's right. Thank
wasn't
you.
doing well, so perhaps we table her to a meeting in the future. Okay, so next on the agenda, Recreation Committee, Anthony Tanzi. Anthony in the room? Anthony, want to come right up? Anthony, welcome. So first off, thank you for your interest in joining the Recreation Committee. I'm just going to open it up to the board, just if they have any questions for you as to your background and your experience in that specific area. So anybody has any questions for Anthony?
Yes.
You still play football?
I do not.
You
No,
don't?
I coach.
Okay,
I coach at South Shore Votek.
okay. Well, that's good to know.
Why are you interested in joining the recreation committee?
So as soon as I graduated high school, I didn't go to college, but I jumped right into youth sports and high school sports as well. So I like trying to take the kids to see what they can achieve throughout. Like, for example, I coach third graders in lacrosse, and it's rewarding and nice to see how they grow throughout the years, and hopefully within sports and other things that kids can have an opportunity to get better with themselves and their lives.
Awesome, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds, all those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Historical Commission, Douglas Becker. Doug? Doug, welcome.
Hello.
So similar, thank you for your interest in joining the Historical Commission. I just want to give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have before we make any kind of an appointment. So with that being said, any questions for Mr. Becker?
Yeah, what's your interest in joining it?
I'm all for history. Coming from Framingham, I was on their history center board as well as their historical commission. I'm restoring the Beale House at 422 East Water Street,
Right.
slowly but surely. And I've done a lot of research into their family, where they've come from Hingham to Rockland, and have a lot of their history to bring in and keep alive in Rockland.
Cool.
Okay. You have a letter of endorsement from Jim Paul, who is the chairman of the Historical Commission. So with that being said, if nobody has any other questions for Mr. Becker, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds again, all those in favor? It's unanimous, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, Nicole Clement Gomes. Nicole? Hey, Nicole, welcome.
Hello.
Again, thank you for your interest in joining the Zoning Board of Appeals. Just open it up to the board for any questions.
Why are you interested in joining the board?
I'm interested because I just got into real estate, and I just moved to Rockland about 3 years ago. So I walk around a lot and I see all these houses, and I'm just like, they have so much potential. And I really enjoy the town that I live in now, coming from Plymouth, and just seeing what I can learn from this experience, and also see what I can do for the community that I live in too.
Great,
So.
thanks.
Any other questions?
Just curious, have you seen the master plan that is online for Rockland? As far as-
I've looked at it a little bit,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and,
Yeah.
I was recommended by a friend to,
Mhm.
start my journey early and, just be involved with the town and learn as much as I can to see what I can do to help the community.
That's awesome. I love that when a younger generation like you steps up
Yeah, so.
to do stuff, so
Thank you.
it's like you're taking control of your own future.
Yeah, and it's just a
Yeah.
hobby. It's not something I do every day. I'm not in real estate every day. I have a job that I have to
Yeah.
take care of in
Yep.
pharmaceutical. So I'm all about I'm in quality assurance. So
Yeah.
I'm all about that quality and making sure you follow those those rules and specifications and that kind of stuff. So.
Great.
Okay. So Nicole also has approval from the chairman of the zoning board, Rob Rosa. So
Okay.
I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds again. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Stepping up.
Okay, next on the agenda, ADA Committee, Richard Warrior. There he is. So I think most of us know this gentleman, so we'll leave it open to questions from the board. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Warrior?
What's your interest in the ADA committee?
ADA, I'm a United States Air Force Vietnam veteran, and I do a lot for whatever I can for the veterans. I'm a Legion member. I want to make sure that they get everything that they deserve. And it seems like a good way to do it. And I was 37 years in the state police. I know how to read laws and enforce them, so
I think you'll be a great addition.
thanks.
Yeah, I don't think we have any concerns with this one. I'll entertain a motion to approve, Mr.
Motion
Warrior.
to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Motion, and I don't think I have 3 seconds on that, so that's really kind of a vote, but we'll go with the official vote anyway. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Welcome.
As
Thank
as
you.
expected.
Thanks.
Okay, we also have a late entry, I believe, right?
That is,
Charter review?
I wasn't planning on that. I thought we were going to wait for a critical mass.
Oh, I figured, I saw that the application was in, so I figured we
Okay.
could throw that on there as well.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I didn't give it
Okay.
out, so,
Okay,
I don't even have it with me right now, so.
It's Vivian Anastasia. Vivian
Yeah.
Anastasia, yeah.
so Vivian Childs,
Anastasia.
Anastasia,
Yeah.
she's,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll
Might as
hyphenate it
well
for
be.
you. She's applying for the Charter Review Committee. So Vivian, if you want to come up real quick and just explain your background a little bit and what your interest is in the Charter Review.
Well, I've been a resident of Rockland since I was 7 years old. I actually grew up on North Avenue, and the Childs family started with a restaurant uptown. We bought it after the fire in '83, and my parents ran it. And in 1999, January 1st, I purchased the restaurant from them. And I've been a resident of Rockland. I've been a business owner in Rockland. It was the center hub of Rockland. I've heard from, we hang the ballot up there because it's a focal point. So I did have more of a nerve on the town and understanding of the town. And I'd really like to see the way the town is going, and I would like to review what our charter is. It is, you know, somewhat, I think, kind of outdated a little.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, Vivian, is since we didn't specifically have you on the agenda tonight for a vote, I'm kind of putting this under, you know, new business not reasonably anticipated, you know, seeing as your application came in a little bit late
Okay.
for this specific meeting. So what we'll do is, you know, the board has now, you know, kind of met you and heard kind of what your background is, your experience, and then on our next meeting, we'll put it on there for a vote for
Not
an
a problem.
appointment, okay?
Yeah.
And at that point, you know, we're all here, we've all now know, so you won't be required to, you know, show up to that meeting,
Oh, okay.
okay?
I wanted to add one thing.
Yep.
Weren't you also on zoning?
Yeah, I was
You-
on the zone,
you were on
no,
zoning.
not zoning, I was on the planning board.
Oh, planning board, yeah.
Right before the master plan, it started the master plan back
Yep,
then.
okay.
So, and I've been on the Chamber of Commerce, I've done quite a bit in Rockland.
So we'll table the official appointment till the next meeting, but, you know, Vivian, thanks for your interest, and, we'll go
Thank
from there.
you.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Vivian.
All right.
Okay, so that's it for the appointments. Next
Mike,
up-
could I make one
yeah.
comment just for those that just got appointed? I know it's really warm in here. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to. So you're welcome to stay, but don't feel obligated.
Okay. Next on the agenda, joint meeting with the Board of Health, appointment of Christina Russo to fill vacant unexpired term per Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11. Christine, you want to open your meeting?
Sure. So I'd like to open meeting for Rockland Board of Health, joint meeting with the selectmen this evening to discuss an appointment of Christina Russo to the Board of Health.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Russo?
Oh, I guess it's the same question as we've been at. Why are you stepping up for this? What is your interest?
I have
Actually, do you want to come up here?
Sure.
So you're near the microphone, otherwise the audience can't hear you. Christine, maybe you or Michelle, maybe both of you guys can come up, because you might be asked, you'll be asked for a vote, so.
Yep.
Welcome.
Oh, nobody's gonna sit next to me.
Anyway, that seat's too hot apparently.
I recently have retired from the state, so.
Congratulations.
I worked with the Department of Mental Health and Department of Corrections, running their psychiatric services. I'm now per diem supervisor at Whitman Counseling Center, so now I have all this time. My children, I just sent my last child off to her sophomore year in college, so we're kind of empty nesters, and I love this town. You know, we moved here 24 years ago. We live on 129 Howard Street on the corner of Vernon and Howard, and we are happy and we've enjoyed it. We love our neighbors. We love how Rockland is progressing, you know, amazingly. We go to every function that Rockland has if we can, and love our neighbors. Did a lot of things with the Scouts and soccer for years, so another way I can give back.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Ms. Russo?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so Christine, Michelle, you guys have any comments, any concerns with the
I can
appointment?
just kind of give you all a little bit of
Sure.
background on how this all came about. You know, obviously we had an open seat, and I've known Christina for many, many years. Our kids were on soccer together and basketball and, you know, all kinds of sports. And they're all now adults, hallelujah. But, and in thinking about sort of who would be a good, I thought a good fit, I kept thinking about Christina in the back of my mind, and I hadn't seen her in many years. It's sort of one of those people you bump into and, you know, stop and shop or whatever, and it's just sort of like, you know, back to where you were when you left off, you know, God only knows how many years prior. So I had always sort of been thinking about her in the back of my head, and so I just kind of sent her a little Facebook message and said, hey, what do you think? And I think you would be great. So one of the things I really like about Christina is that I've always found her to be very fair, I've always found her to be very honest, and I really think that that's an important thing to bring to the table. And I think that she would, just with her background in psychology, have a nice addition with the, Board of Health in general, for general issues that may come up that, we may not, really know how to do. So, so I asked her, and she said, sure, and just what she said, I'm kind of in the place right now where I'm semi-retired, and, and I was like, okay. So we just sort of went through the process, and here we are, so
So
that's
perfect
kind of,
timing.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, so
So-
that's sort of how that all came about.
One of the policies that we tend to operate by is generally the board that the person is being appointed to, assuming that there is a unanimous vote or majority vote from that board that they're being appointed to, we generally follow suit. So I'll leave it up to you to make the motion, and Michelle possibly the second, and you guys can have your votes from there, and we'll do ours.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to appoint Christina Russo for the temporary position in Board of Health.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All those in favor?
You guys, and from this board?
Make a motion to
Have a-
appoint Christina.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Historical Commission update. Jim Paul. Welcome, Jim. It's been a long time since you've been up here.
I know, it has been a while, yeah. For those who may not know me, I'm Jim Paul, Chairman of the Historical Commission. So good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to come and share with you folks some of the projects that the Rockland Commission has been involved in. But first, I'd like to recognize the other members of the commission. We've got Peter Dow. If you could stand up, Pete, get your face out there. Peter Dow's been a member for more than 20 years. Tom Reagan is our member for a number of years. He's also our Community Preservation Act representative and the treasurer to the CPC. And Pam Ryan, she was appointed last year. She's our official archivist and has been very busy researching all things Rockland, as anyone that follows Facebook is about to see. So. And I'd also like to welcome Doug Becker, our newest member. He's had previous experience with historical commissions, so he's welcome to come on board. And I'd like to take this opportunity as well to put out an invitation to anyone else who has a passion for history. We can have, I believe, up to 7 members. We now have 5, so come on down. So a couple of things we've been working on. We'll start with the Tramp House. It's up on Spring Street by the ball fields. It's historically significant in that it's one of 5 that are left in the state that were originally tramp houses, and they were all put to use for vagrants coming through town looking for work. Rockland had a huge shoe industry at the time, so they always found work, but it was a temporary position. And they also worked the farm at the poorhouse, the almshouse. So they could stay for a week or 2 weeks, then they'd move on. But Rockland needed to have an almshouse, a poorhouse, as well as a school and a church to be incorporated. So that's how it all started. And that was our precursor to our current welfare system. So it's come a long way since then. But on the house itself, we've been, it's taken a bit of time to get to where we're at now, but we repaired the foundation, repaired all the framing. We've got new roof porch posts that are up. We've got a new roof and repaired under the roof. We've got new exterior paint that was just done less than 2 weeks ago, and new trim work in all the exterior. So the outside is done. What we still have left to do, our wish list is we'd like to build a new porch floor. And we'd like to do some type of interior floor, whether it's just crushed stone or concrete, just to keep it tight and weather tight and keep the rodents and animals out. And would also like to replace one of the windows. It's up at the peak of the gable, and there was in our work in there, we discovered that there used to be 2 windows beside the chimney on the back of the building. So we'd like to put those in. They'd be just fixed windows. We don't really want to put windows in the building itself. I think it'd just be a source of vandalism and kids breaking in or someone breaking in. So it's looking pretty good the way it is. We do the porch. We've got some benches up there already. And it'd be a good-looking little building. It looks much better now than it ever did. So it's been around for a while. Back in the 1970s, there was a big picnic up there, and a band actually played on the porch of the almshouse. And so we've got pictures of all that stuff. So those are the things that we'd like to do, and this is all CPA funding. So the commission, we acquire bids, put it together, get it to the CPA committee. If they approve it, it goes to town meeting, and we move on from there. The other project we were involved in was the Grand Army of the Republic Hall, which is right out behind Rockland Federal Credit. So that's been another ongoing process, but when we got the revenue stream of the Community Preservation Act, they were the first on our list to try to get some work done to the building. And we've been involved in it for a number of years, and we've helped them get a number of grants to keep the building going. No town money has been spent on it, except for CPA funding. So the second floor is, the ceiling is new. It's a brand new sheetrock and plaster overlay. It's all, second floor's all been painted. We took all the paintings down, painted all the walls, cleaned all the paintings and everything, put them back up. New second floor chandelier lighting was installed, new switching, new wiring. So it's looking really good up there, and we're getting some life back in the building. As a matter of fact, there's a new activity in there. So there's Matt Warner, who runs a Paranormal Explorers facility in group. He's made use of the building. They rent it from the Grand Army Hall, and they come in and do their investigations. They love the building. They're enthralled with it. They've had a crafts fair there already back in July. It was well attended, and they're actually having a costume ball at the hall at the end of October for Halloween type of thing. It's going to be a kind of a Gatsby era, The Shining type of thing. Ball at the hall. So dig out your antique clothing, go on up. Another thing I'd like to mention regarding the GAR is that with Pam Ryan's work, she's discovered a lot of history that even the members of the hall were unaware of. One of them is it's called the sketchbook. So it's called a sketchbook, but it's actual personal stories from the Civil War soldiers. So when they came back from the war, they'd go to the hall. They would handwrite their experiences in this book. So it's one person writing a story, and Pam has gone through it. Actually, I'd like to have Pam come up and maybe talk a little bit more about it for a minute, but we're going to be putting an application together to get that book restored and archived properly. It's very rare. There's not too many left around. They've all just kind of disappeared, but This one's in pretty good shape. Gonna let Pam carry on with that.
So the war sketches were the official service records that were certified by the commander of the JR and the post historian. So they researched this, and it was meant to live on as history. This volume is a large book. It was given to the JR 1891 by 5 citizens: E.T. Wright, Albert Culver, George Kelly. These are names, if you know anything about history, that they donated this book to the JR, and it was meant to record all the information so that it would not be lost. So this book is 131 years old. It's giant. The pages are in beautiful shape. It needs to be rebound. It is the only recording of our Civil War soldiers' civil service history. Yes, you can go into Walter Sargent, and he has written books about them, but this is the actual, who their comrades were, what battles they saw, and then in the back, there are the burials, and also the unreturned. I don't know if you've ever been to the second floor of the GAR's giant Schwab portraits. That's another selectmen's meeting. I'll be back. But basically, those are the only images that exist in the world of unreturned Civil War soldiers. And the whole reason that hall is over there is because of those guys that are in this book. I've written on that, but they've covered it. We found it in the closet. And it's the most important thing in the GAR hall, and it needs to be preserved. That's my take on it.
That's cool.
And another thing that Pam's involved in as well is grave markers and gravestones. So we're kind of thinking of getting possibly, and we'll talk to the school department as well, but possibly getting students to do some community service. And it's as simple as spraying a solvent on the stones. There's no rubbing involved. Spray it, walk away, leave it, let it rain. Pam can explain what it is.
So the chemical is called D2. It's a biologic. It doesn't harm anything. It doesn't harm the environment or pets. And basically what it does is, so most of these stones are 100 years old plus. And they're in all our cemeteries, town and privately owned. And they get gray. You can't even read them. All you do, because we have enough rain, is you just spray it down and walk away. Come back 2 months later. You might have to spray it a few times, but once you've removed 100 years worth of staining and lichens, which can damage and crack these stones are beautiful. I mean, if you walk to the cemeteries, you'll see gray, bright white. That's D2. It's amazing stuff, but it's costly, but under supervision, I make my daughter, she's a senior in high school, help me. And now her friends are like, can we get community service hours for that? I'm like, well, I'll see. I mean, they can walk through the cemetery, here's your section, your job, find these 10 stones, just spray them. I mean, they'd be supervised. I think it's a win-win. They can give back to the community, and they can earn their community service hours doing something worthwhile. So that's my take.
One more thing, just to bring up quickly, we used to have a Daughters of the American Revolution monument. It was at the 1745 house. It was actually at 7-Eleven, before 7-Eleven. That's where the 1745 house was. It moved over to the school. The stone and plaque were there. When that got removed, we've got it in storage at Town Hall. Our original thought, years and years ago, was to put it somewhere at Town Hall. But with the new parks that are there now, it just didn't quite fit. Talked with Dave Taylor, the Highway Department, and we both agree that it's better to be back at Reed's Pond. It's closer to the original site. It could be just a marker there, and just to recognize the area. And the Daughters of the American Revolution would be very happy to see that back. If it doesn't get back soon, they'll be looking to bury me under it, so we'll try to get that there. That's about it. Any questions from you guys?
Any comments, questions from the board?
I just want to thank you guys. This is like so cool what you're doing. All these projects.
Well, we're gonna try to get some activities done, like at the GAR, some historical things. maybe we can get Allison up to Tramp House, get some farmers market stuff going up there.
Yeah.
One of the other projects we want to do is clean out what used to be a garden up there. Perhaps get back into a community garden location. That would be a perfect spot. Historically, that's where it was. So we'd love to get that going, so.
Good idea.
Just one question, and thank you very much for this update. It's been awesome, and I really admire the passion that you bring to what you do for the commission and for the town. The sketchbook sounds fascinating. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. Do you know, in terms of the preservation, like, do you have a resource in mind for that?
I do.
or-
So the town of Abington has, the Dyer actually has their copy.
Okay.
It now lives there. So they had theirs restored. It's an outfit in Lowell. They that specialize in digitizing and preserving and rebounding old volumes. The town of Whitman used the same source, and it's just amazing. You can walk right into the Whitman Town Hall and it's in a glass case. It's and so yes, I do.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody has any other questions or comments? You guys, great, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, one-day liquor licenses, farmer's market. Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple of these.
Thank you.
All right. Hello. Such a great job with that.
Allison, welcome. Thanks for stopping by again.
Here all the time.
Yeah, you're pretty much
A
as
frequent
regular.
flyer.
You might as well just be an agenda item.
Right.
Like permanent fixture, you
Permanent.
know? Okay, so we have one-day liquor license for Latitude Beverage, doing business as 90-plus wine cellar, looking for 9/10, 10/18, and 10/22 for the farmer's market.
So there is a little bit of an amendment there. They're not going to be here this weekend. It's the rosé truck. And then 10/18 should be 10/1. I'm sorry, 10/8.
Okay. So, entertain a motion to approve the one-day liquor license for 90-plus wine cellar for 10/8 and 10/22.
So moved.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Thank
That's
you.
unanimous. Okay, now one-day liquor licenses, Fall Festival for 10/1. Article 15, Brockton Beer, Barrel House Z, Players Sports Bar and Grill, Buzzed Meadery. Any questions?
Nope.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be
Success
fun.
last year.
90 Plus is also involved in that one too. But I'll be here for the next selectman meeting
Oh.
for the rest.
So just, you've been coordinating obviously all along with the police department
Yep.
in the setup of this? Okay.
Yep. So we're gonna do the wristbands just like Rockland Day. It's gonna be sectioned off a little bit better this time. We use the barriers that the highway gives us, and we're gonna move the food trucks out of there because it was a little congested last year. Obviously, we're adding a little more options because we ran dry about an hour before the event was over. Not a bad thing. And there'll be, Harmon's gonna be in there serving sausages. A couple other food vendors that are small. We have Crush, the band, headlining, and then Rob Hendrickson, who's a Rockland resident, playing for the first 2 hours.
Nice.
Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Mike, it's up to you guys, but if you want to add the Latitude 90-plus to the Fall Festival as well, I did put it in your binders. It just came in after I put
Okay,
it
so
on.
we can add the 90-plus wine cellar to that. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion, I have a second, all those in favor?
Yep.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
See you all there, right?
Yes.
Of course.
Yep.
Look forward to
Okay,
it.
next on the agenda, Class 2 license approval for Andrade Auto, 250 Webster Street. Anybody here?
I thought he was coming, but I don't see him. So I guess we'll pass that over till the next meeting. We
Okay.
did confirm with him earlier today that he was going to be here, so maybe he'll be a little bit late. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll pass it over. All right, other new business not reasonably anticipated?
I have none.
Okay, next on the agenda, under old business, sewer update. Doug?
So the only update I have is, based on direction from the board, I sent the sewer commissioners a formal email today. And maybe I won't read the whole thing, but maybe I'll just read most of it, just so you get a gist of it, and I can let the public know as well. And this is sort of just in response to some of the dialogue we've had back and forth with the sewer commissioners, regarding who has authority to make decisions in the sewer department. So I wrote to them earlier today, and I said that I've been asked by the Board of Selectmen to reach out to you to confirm your responsibilities regarding the EPA's administrative order. As you are aware, the town met the first two deadlines when town council submitted the required material that was due on August 1st and September 1st, 2022. This note serves as a reminder that the next deadline is November 30th, 2022, as follows. Until further notice, beginning on November 30th, 2022, and every 6 months thereafter, i.e. each November 30 and May 31 each year, the town shall submit a semi-annual compliance report to the EPA and Mass DEP detailing the actions taken by the town during the prior 6-month period and planned during the next 6-month period to comply with this order and to address NIPD's permit flow violations and any other permit violations that occur associated with elevated flows to the treatment plant. The semi-annual compliance report shall at a minimum include the following. And it's a very long list of very technical things which I'm not going to read now, but it involves lists and descriptions of things and maps, descriptions of actions that the town intends on taking, tables showing development projects that have been approved but waiting for authorization to connect, spreadsheets with funding analyses, actions taken toward implementing the additional alternatives report that they were directed to consider, that type of information. So that's all listed in the note directly from the order. And I said, as a reminder, all communication with the EPA regarding this administrative order should go through town council. If you have any questions about the materials required to be submitted, please reach out to town council John Clifford directly, and I gave his contact info. And then in closing, I said, please submit the sewer department's final response for the November 30 deadline to John Clifford no later than November 16, so that he'll have time to review this information to ensure compliance with the administrative order and request any modifications or corrections be made by the sewer department if necessary. And then, a closing explaining if they had individual questions to contact me, but obviously not to reply all to that email note or deliberate in any way outside of a posted meeting. So I sent that this afternoon. I did get an acknowledgement from the chairman that he received it and understands it and that they're working on it. So that's my update for sewer.
Okay. Lori, seeing as you're the liaison, wondering if you might have any quick updates?
Right, so the sewer department has a working group that is televised every Wednesday at 2. And, for the public, it's hard to get off work at 2 to come to and observe these, but it is available on the WRPS website. I wish they'd at least have one, and I suggested this to them. I didn't get a reply, that they have one evening working meeting set, because what's going on with the sewer is really important. I mean, it's the basis of any advancement we're doing with the town. We also have a working group, from our board, and Jen Constable's involved, and Dave Taylor was, and we reached out to the chairman of the sewer commission, and he refused to meet with us. And I'm kind of saddened by that, because from watching their working group meetings, we're all on the same page, right? We are all on the same page. We want the same things. The most important thing is meeting the EPA requirements, and they're working on that by, they're interviewing tomorrow for a new sewer superintendent because Dave left. And there's 3 candidates. I think tomorrow 2 are supposed to show up. They're having it at the WRPS studio, but the public is not invited to that. They're gonna show it the next day on WRPS to inform the public about it. And I don't know about the, is that kosher? Or, I don't know what the deal is around that.
I mean, technically,
so.
they're supposed to be public interviews.
Right. Right.
But I guess it's being televised, so.
Yeah, I think they're
Live on
televising
tape.
it afterwards, yeah.
I mean, there is the flexibility to have remote meetings, so
Yep.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, they said under no uncertain terms is the public welcome to these interviews. And they said it's, to protect people's privacy. I don't know what that means. But they, after they hire a sewer superintendent, they also plan to have from Veolia a project manager to oversee the deadlines are met for the EPA. I don't know if this is another paid position or if it's in their budget or if it's someone that's under the current Veolia contract. So I reached out to Chuck Hession about that and I haven't gotten an answer on that yet. So I hope to find out, and I hope that if it is another paid position, that it's within their budget. So that's my update.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions for Lori in regards to her update? Okay, so, I mean, obviously, our last meeting, there was a lot said about the sewer department. We got an update from Attorney Clifford, heard some things from Attorney Galvin. So, my comments were generally as they were then, they are today. We are Board of Selectmen, and we will take a step back, and we will let them do their thing as far as it pertains to the EPA order. We will continue to send them reminders. I think the reminder emails, Doug, maybe have them posted on the website for residents to see what's also due, so that it's crystal clear to everyone. But I think it's one of those things that, I'll continue to follow up as a resident, as I think all residents should. I'll reach out to Chairman Hession again, who hasn't replied back to me at all in the last week. I'll see about having him share his email with the public so that they can reach out to him and email him with their questions and concerns, because I know that I've received a lot of questions and concerns since the last meeting about the actions of the sewer department drainage committee. So with that, we'll step aside and they can do their thing. Hopefully they do what's best for the residents of Rockland. That's what I think we tried to put out there last week, was that they're putting us in a position where it's going to cost the residents over $1 million in unnecessary fees and penalties. Yeah. We talked about earlier this meeting that we've already given them $1 million in ARPA funding, which is concerning because they asked us for ARPA funding, and without hesitation, we gave them $1 million worth based on the stuff that they said that they needed, because we felt it was important to meet the EPA deadlines. And now we're at a point where, they've got their $1 million and now they don't want to talk to us, which is very concerning to me. But we'll see. We'll step back and we'll let them do their thing. And I know I've had a lot of residents that are very concerned over their actions over the last, 16 years now. I don't know if maybe it's too soon for us to be stepping in. 16 years might be too short of a window, but in any case, we're here if they ever need us. So with that, anybody have any other comments regarding the sewer update? Otherwise, we can.
Yeah, I just had two things I wanted to add. Jen Constable and Doug have a lot of ideas as far as community development goes. Having like e-bike stations around Rockland and doing multi-use, really improving our community and bringing it forward. Finally getting a grocery store in town and a bakery, an Italian deli, all these things that people have wanted for years. And the decisions that are made about the sewer right now, and especially since, we reach out to them and they don't seem to be communicative, is just holding all that back. And I'm really concerned about that too. And as far as the actual sewer plant goes, we don't need a whole new plant. We have actually a very unique sewer plant, one of 7 in the whole state, that recycles methane gas to keep our digester boiler going. So it's really kind of a cool thing. Two pieces of equipment they do need there are a tertiary system, which is $500,000, that regulates the levels of phosphorus that we've been, going over monthly in our output into French's pond. And also the mixers. The mixers, there's 8 of them, and they're from the 1960s. And they're, concerning because there's concrete that's falling into the mixers from inside the apparatus. So they really need to be replaced. And I haven't gotten a cost on that yet, but I'm guessing it's probably $250,000 to $500,000. So, they need another $1 million in the near future for that. And so hopefully that money and the money we've already gave them, I hope it doesn't go to EPA fines rather than improving what, the things that we need at the plant.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, Lori, about all the different types of things that are going on in terms of development and trying to improve the community, and how this singular board is holding back the entire community from all of that. I mean, one of the things that we always talk about is the potential to, split the tax rate.
Right.
And put some of that, more of the tax burden on businesses, but we're not able to get businesses into town because of the moratorium that exists at the sewer plant, and because they're not taking the steps necessary to remove that moratorium in any kind of a speedy fashion. And they're really doing everything they can to prevent development from occurring. And when we met with the EPA said they weren't against projects coming in. They just wanted to make sure that, whatever flow was coming in, 11 to 1 was going out. And, or whatever formula we said, 15 to 1, 20 to 1, whatever it is. And this is the funny thing. But you can adjust that, right? And I've had this conversation with town council, with land use council. When we bring in a developer, we do it with the billboard company. We've done it with all the marijuana companies. We do a host community agreement. And within that host community agreement, we present them terms. We say, these are the terms that we're willing to accept and allow you to do business in the town of Rockland. Well, we set those terms. If they don't want to meet those terms, then I guess they're not doing business in the town of Rockland. The sewer commissions has the same ability to set specific terms on different developers. There's nothing that says they have to have anything set in stone. Depending on the size and scope of the project and the amount of, gallons that they're going to use, they can set the terms based on what they feel. And if that project doesn't want to go through based on those terms, then they can negotiate it a little bit here and there. But we don't need the businesses if they don't want to meet our terms, but meet the terms in order to make that sewer department function. And I think that's what hasn't happened, is they've been so ardent in being that, well, we're 11 to 1 and that's it. We're 11 to 1 and that's it. Well, 11 to 1 has caused them to operate in the red for the last, 15 to 16 years. Not raising any kind of sewer rates has caused them to operate in the red for the last 15 or 16 years. And the first time that they've operated in the black was this past year, and it's because, as under Dave Taylor's suggestion, they changed that formula from 11 gallons in to per 1 gallon out. They changed it to 15 to 1, and that's caused them to operate well. And now they're doing well, and they pushed the guy out that came up with the plan, and they're continuing to back up on promises to the community. But
well, I don't know. I just want to say, I mean, watching their working groups and watching their meetings, it seems like they are putting forth an effort now. We'll see where it goes, but at this point, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt until that November 1st deadline.
I agree. I agree. They were making progress before until we heard the update for last meeting.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's.
I understand. So, but still, I mean, they, a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes, I think they say. But they may work it out to where it works out okay.
And
Either they're hiring a new superintendent. We'll see how that goes. And I mean, how many have they had in the past few years?
John Laughlin, Dave Taylor, Keith Nastasian, Dave Taylor, and then on to number 5, I guess. So.
Okay, all right, so there's been 5 in a few years.
Yeah.
So,
18 months?
I still want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll pull it together to meet the deadlines, and that's what we can do as a board, is to help keep them on track with that.
And that's all we've
you
been
know?
trying to do.
Right.
You know, and that's what's, I think, so frustrating. Some of the information that we got last week, I was hearing for the first time, as far as the potential for those fees
Yes.
coming back at us. And I think as a resident, I have, every one of us had every right to be upset about that.
Yep.
To hear that we were just gonna throw away $1 million, because I still don't know the reason. I still
Right.
don't know the reason, but.
Well, the fees are unnecessary if you keep on track with the EPA, and, we had an order from them in 2006 that was completely ignored. So
Yeah.
we're lucky we didn't get, like, extraordinary fees. So the EPA have been really generous to us.
And I'll tell you, part of
So-
why we didn't get those fees
Mhm.
was because when myself, Doug, Jen, town council, Dave Taylor, and Chuck Hession met with the EPA,
Yep.
they believed that we were all gonna work as a team and be on top of it together.
Yep.
That's why we didn't get those fines. That's
Yeah.
why we didn't pay those penalties.
Mhm.
Because when they turned to me and they asked if the Board of Selectmen would support the sewer commissioners in this endeavor, we said we'd be there with them every step of the way.
Yep.
And then we get stonewalled the second the EPA leaves the room. So,
Well,
we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I'd like to publicly reach out to the sewer commission and have a sit down and just, our board, your board, the concerned citizens of Rockland, just to get everything out in the open, to all get on the same page with everything. So that's it. I've said enough on it.
Yeah, I think that's been the offer. And with
Yeah.
that, I guess we can move on and we'll leave it up to them again. Once again, we'll end the sewer update segment with, it's balls in their court for them
Yep.
to reach out to us. They can pick up the phone.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda, other old business not reasonably anticipated. Doug?
I have none.
Okay. Town administrator's report and correspondence. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I have a number of updates tonight. The first is, as the board remembers, and I know Jim Paul kind of alluded to this in his report, at last year's annual town meeting voted to authorize funding to acquire open space at the Spring Lake Cemetery at Reed's Pond. And we've been working very hard to try to close that deal. But ultimately, we're not able to do it the conventional way because the owners, operators of the cemetery don't really have the paperwork that's required to the level a municipality needs to convey land. It's been, it's an old cemetery, it's been, operated for a number of years, but the bottom line is, the proper title documents aren't really in place. So in talking to our land use council and the council that the cemetery's been using, we're gonna need to do it by eminent domain. And when we wrote the article last year, we didn't envision that, so we'll need to have a new article at next spring's annual town meeting to take it by eminent domain. I don't think there'll be any problems with that, because they're willing to sell it to us, they'd like to give it to us, we'll need to go through this legal process. That doesn't take us off the hook as far as compensation. With eminent domain, you still have to pay, damages, and we have an appraisal, so we know, what the value of the property is. But there will be, we'll need to have a town meeting vote. I have gone ahead and had an engineering firm do what they call a taking plan, so that plan is all set and good to go. So just the folks were wondering kind of what the delay is on that project, that's what's been holding it up. I really am looking forward to getting this one done, because once we acquire that, the next phase of actually improving it, I think is gonna be really exciting, because I know there's a lot of history there, and just that location on that body of water, I mean, it's already used now, and it's kind of run down, and once it's really improved as a beautiful park and restoring the old stone fountain, and Jim had the idea of the marker there, I think it's gonna be a real iconic part of town, so I look forward to getting that going after next May. Getting to some staffing issues, I wanted to announce, and I know she mentioned it at a prior meeting, that our assessor, Deb Krupchek, is retiring. This is actually her last week of work. We're very sad to see her go, and I know we did mention it to her previously, but I'll say it again while she's still here, that she's just unbelievably knowledgeable. and professional and calm, and has been a real sort of anchor here with our financial team over the last number of years. So we'll be sad to see her go. I know the Board of Assessors is interviewing folks to replace her, so hopefully we'll get that position filled soon. In the treasurer's office, I'm pleased to announce that we are hiring a new assistant treasurer. That position's been vacant for a bit. Coincidentally, the new person is also named Allison, which is going to be posing a problem for the treasurer named Allison, not to be confused with the other Allison to my left. That's a popular name. So I think they've reached an agreement where the new assistant treasurer is going to be named or be called Allie. So Allison's the treasurer, Allie will be the assistant. I think the expected start date is September 19th. So that'll be a big relief for that department. They've been shorthanded for a while now. Our assistant town accountant position is being advertised now, as well as the town planner position is now being advertised as well. Moving on to some procurement issues, I've been working with the chief, the fire chief, and we have gone out to bid for the fire station flooring repairs. That was something funded at town meeting from free cash, so we're getting bids on that. We've also signed and executed the contract with the architect for the fire station feasibility study that this board agreed to fund through ARPA funds. And again, that's going to help us not only get the study done, but also carry us all the way through the ZBA special permit process. So that's a huge milestone. If we're successful there, then if you want to, we could look at potentially going to town meeting in May and the ballot. And if we're not successful with that special permit, then back to the drawing board, have to look at a new site. We've also put out a request for qualifications, an RFQ, to hire an architect for the Recreation Department building feasibility study to be located at Hartsett Park, which we talked about before. We were able to do the fire station contract quickly because the RFQ was done prior to my even working in Rockland, and they had the foresight then to make sure that any additional add-on services could be continued. That's a legal way to do things. But this work with the Hartsett building, this is really a brand new study, at a whole new location. So no big deal. The RFQ's out. We'll be getting qualifications soon, and we should get somebody on board and working in early October for that. I probably should have led with this next one, kind of goes back to the sewer issue. I alluded to this a little bit earlier before, but I want to thank Jen for her efforts. She secured a Green Communities grant for the sewer plant. That's going to total approximately $90,000. That's going to bring in significant energy savings measures and pumps and variable frequency drives and controls, which I can't really tell you exactly what they do, but I know that it's a grant for $90,000 that's going to help also have recurring savings and lower energy costs, electric costs for the sewer department. And that's all. I sign the grants, but Jen does all the work, so I want to thank her for that. Next, I had a pretty powerful, I don't want to call it, I guess a training. I observed a very powerful training earlier today. Dr. Cron and Jane Hackett invited me to attend at the schools with the school leadership. It was the Rockland Police Department was doing some active shooter training where they had police officers. There were no live rounds fired, but there were blanks, and they had different scenarios that they explained to us. And it was, I mean, it's horrifying that we have to be doing these kinds of things, but I can't tell you how moved I was to see our Rockland police officers and how they train, and they took the time to explain to us that, this isn't like what we've seen in the news in other parts of the country. If there's only one officer who's there, if it's Officer Schnabel, he'll call it in, and then he's going in, even if he's all by himself. And without hesitation, every single officer explained that. There's no waiting. Everybody goes in immediately. And some of the parts of the training exercise showed one officer going in alone, but then later being joined by others, and then how they combine their efforts. And it was very powerful, and I want to thank the Rockland Police Department, because every single one of those officers, will not hesitate, and they won't delay risking their own lives for every child in those buildings. So I want to thank them for their service. And then it's certainly anticlimactic after that to say that we're back to our normal hours here at Town Hall. We're open late first and third Tuesdays and open all days on Fridays.
Well, end on a high note.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen, and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Selectperson Childs.
Well, I feel that I've spoken way too much tonight, so I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank the people that stepped up for the boards. And, I encourage, the parent community of people in elementary through high school to volunteer and become more engaged with the community, because you can develop your own future that way, right? And you can make your own choices for your own future, and it's wicked important. And this is such a great time with a lot of federal money coming through the pipe. We don't know how much or how long it's going to last, but if we can get some of that for development, then eventually, hopefully, our taxes can go down. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ward.
Thanks.
Selectperson Shortall.
I'd like to thank the Historical Commission for the immense effort that they have put into preserving the history of this town. I think it's very important. I think that people don't always understand how important it is, but I am blown away by the efforts that they've put forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Selectperson Needham.
I would also like to thank everyone who stepped up for boards. It's a wonderful way to get involved with the town, and I congratulated the superintendent and the assistant superintendent on embarking on the first week of school, but I also want to put a shout out to all of our Rockland Bulldogs, in that it's your first week of school, and I hope everybody does really well this year.
Thank you, Tiffany. Vice Chairman Nyman.
Don't have anything additional to add tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have much. I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is Rockland Police Appreciation Day. All day, feel free to stop by the police station, thank the officers. We'll be doing a small ceremony at about 11 o'clock or so to meet the officers anyway. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Police Chief.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second not to reconvene. All those in favor? Roll call. Selectman Childs?
Yes.
Selectman Shortall?
Yes.
Selectman Needham?
Yes.
Vice Chair Nyman?
Yes.
And myself. That's unanimous. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.